Hello, and welcome to the breakout session for Workforce Development Continuing Education, also known as the non-credit courses that the college offers. This is the breakout session and an opportunity for you guys to ask me any questions that you have about those items. FAFSA is the federal financial aid system. They will not apply federal financial aid to non-credit programs.
Okay.
However, we do have several scholarships, grants that are available through the Montgomery College Foundation that explicitly focus on health science programs in non-credit. We do have grants that are available for it. We may have you do the FAFSA application as part of doing the grants on a needs basis, but it's not something that you would take federal loans for that. The non-credit programs run on a different semester than the credit programs do. We have a spring semester, summer semester, and a fall semester, each of which is 4 months of the year. So January through April is our non-credit spring semester. The beginning of May through the end of August is our summer semester. So that one runs longer than credit courses. And then our fall semester is the start of September until the college closes for winter break in late December. One of the best things about non-credit programs is they are single semester courses. And upon successful completion, well, at least for the health science ones, you end up coming out of the program with the credentials for a work field. The CNA class will cost tuition and fees that the college collects, about $2,150. But you should be aware that there are going to be some additional expenses that you would have to field along the way, such as verification of your health records, vaccine immunization status, and so on. And those incidental costs can be as low as about $150, or they may cost you several $100s. But that will depend on the individual and vary from person to person. The classroom portion of CMA runs for approximately 7 weeks and is then followed by the clinical portion of CNA, which is spread over 4 weeks. The classroom portion includes skills labs to practice. It's not just sitting in a classroom. And that runs 88 hours. The clinical contact portion of the class is an additional 60 hours.
Gotcha. Okay.
Thank you.
They're registered separately, but the aggregate cost for both of them tends to be about $2,150. The absolute best place to start is Montgomery College's webpage, www.montgomerycollege.edu. On the webpage, one of the big drop-down menus that we have is labeled Workforce Development and Continuing Education. If you go there, that takes you into all of the non-credit offerings. Health Sciences is one of the subdivisions that's listed there in Workforce Development. Registering, there are some programs, CNA would be one of them, that require an orientation, and we do some pre-admission screening tests, just English language reading comprehension and basic 6th grade math, just because those are job-related skills that are associated with CNA, and we do have limited seats available. So we run several opportunities for those, usually about a month or so in advance of registration opening up. So for the fall classes, look for those around midsummer. So if we go to Montgomery College's webpage, it will first take you to the home page here. Under Workforce Development and Non-Credit Courses, with the drop-down, go to Health Sciences. And this brings you to the landing page for the Health Science Institute, the non-credit health science programs. If you are interested in information about the programs, you can find them linked over here on the sidebar of the menu, such as health career training, nursing related programs, CNA and GNA programs, and so forth. If you are looking for a specific course and you already know what the course is in terms of the coding that the college uses for it, I will show you how to search the class schedule and find out the exact days and times that it's being offered, as well as if there are any open seats. So taking this as an example, if we look at something like medical assistant, CMA, CCMA, it will talk about this individual class, but more to the point, if you look at it, you'll find out its coding is HHS 112. Under searching the site, I'm sure there are links for it, but honestly, it's easier to type this under searching the site. Class schedule. Search the class schedule. It's always one of the recommended links. Go away, Monty. I don't need your help right now. And it will break it out. It will show you for the current semester as well as the next several upcoming semesters. So if we're interested in, hey, is there an early summer start for that medical assistant class? Then we say, all right, search in summer 1, and that was HHS 112, which is not one of the highlighted programs here, but that's okay. We can just go to the advanced search and say, show this to me for the summer. All right, well, let's say we're looking at CNA, which I know is nursing NUR 076. So if I say NUR 076 and search the schedule, it will show you the nursing 076 sections as well as the number of available seats. As I mentioned, we are pretty much full on those. We do have one which is set up for an outside group that still has some seats available. They haven't filled them yet, but the open enrollment classes have filled for the summer. So searching the class schedule is probably the best way to check for those specific items. Let's see here. Let me scroll back up. I'm sorry, I know I'm lagging behind in the messages being sent. Verbal requests tend to jump up towards the top. Let's see. Planning on taking phlebotomy. How do you register for that one? The phlebotomy technician class is HHS 034. And it's paired with a practical experience section. They don't do clinicals where they go out with our faculty. They do externships where they go out in much smaller groups to potential employers, and they work under the guidance of the employees in that practice. But HHS 115 is the paired course for phlebotomy technicians. So 034 and 115. And honestly, we look for them by searching the class schedule. And if we've got an open spot, then we say, great, register me. I'd like to sign up for this. Can you do CNA during college? Is it a manageable side job? The CNA class itself is generally going to be 2 evenings a week of classroom and 1 day a week, usually a weekend day, for skills labs. Some of the CNA classes, that skills lab day is a 3rd evening of the week. It simply depends on which schedule you look at. In terms of working in that field, let me just finish this question, then I will come right back to you. Yes, working as a CNA, honestly, yeah, depending where you are, it may be an 8-hour shift, it may be a 12-hour shift, but as long as your employer is happy to work with you around your academic schedule, then yes, working in that field while taking classes is very doable. A lot of our nursing students do that. And also a lot of students who are planning on not getting an undergraduate degree for healthcare, but rather going into something like a physician assistant school, PA school, they will end up taking a quick entry course like medical assistant or CNA so that they can get the patient care contact hours that are required by those PA programs.
But I wanted to know regarding the CMA program,
Yes.
there is the labs in the clinical externship, are
Yes.
students finding their own externships, or are they placed with an affiliated clinic or hospital?
We have a waiting list of places that would like us to send them students on externships. If the student has one that they would really like to do, we can undertake trying to get all of the paperwork arranged, certificates of insurance and everything else for them to go to that location if it's not one that we already use. However, if they don't have one in mind, we will happily refer them to one of the ones already on our list. We do not do an all online medical assistant. We have done hybrids where some classroom is online, but the skills are hands-on and in person. The college has a resource office with locations on all 3 major campuses, referred to as Disability Support Services. Ideally, before the class starts, the student should meet with one of the counselors from Disability Support Services with the documentation from their healthcare provider. The types of accommodations that we will usually see may include, if this is a hearing issue, offering captioning services for anything that is a recorded video. If this is an issue with reading and working at speed, such as dyslexia or something along those lines, the accommodation may be extra time on tests. But DSS will provide you a letter with the recommended supports, and then it is the student's job to discuss that with their class instructor so that we find out how those accommodations best mesh with the framework of the class being delivered. I will say, as part of Health Sciences Institute, one of the things that we do not work with accommodations on is the performance of physical job skills. We will in terms of how the skill is performed, but not in terms of the skill must be performed without causing harm or undue risk to anyone else. As an example, we had a nursing student who was functionally deaf, so they had difficulty auscultating for sounds, listening for sounds within the body with a stethoscope. They used a stethoscope that had a visual oscilloscope on it, and they just learned what to look for as opposed to what to listen for. And they graduated the program that way. So we do want students to register for both of them at the same time, and this is because the process of getting a student cleared to go to the clinical sites is a multi-week process. So we need them registered early enough so we know what clinical site to clear them with. However, because CNA does cost above the threshold of, I think, $950, which is what the college has decided lately is the tuition installment plan option, it does mean that you have the option to register for both, but then break down the tuition into 2 to 3 installments over the course of the semester. If something were to happen and it turns out that you cannot go to clinical, what you would then do is withdraw from the clinical session, and you would get a credit back for that, so that what you were paying on the tuition installment plan would only be about the classroom. That being said, if you wanted to complete the program, you would then have to make arrangements with us to get into a later clinical session.
Okay, and far as like the payment plan, I'm looking at, it says a minimum balance due of $900. Would that be like
Yes.
the first payment, and then the rest will be due in 2 payments?
No,
All the ones in the Tacoma Park location.
I'm sorry, someone's not on mute and I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing what's going on there.
But the time is like 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock.
Okay, there we go. We're going to mute that individual. All right. Sorry, I had to switch screens to do that. So what that means for the tuition installment plan is that the total amount that you owe the college for your classes that semester, that is the minimum amount that they will establish a tuition installment plan. If you set it up as a 2 installment plan, the first installment plus $35 is due when you register, and then the second one is due later. If you make it 3 installments, then 1/3 of your total plus $35 is due on the first one, followed by a second 1/3 and a third 1/3. That $35 is the fee that they charge for establishing the installment plan. There are no prerequisites for applying to the program. However, for securing licensure, they do want you to have either a high school diploma or a GED. The question, what does NMR mean when looking at pricing? Non-Maryland resident.
Okay,
Because
thank
we
you.
get subsidized by the state of Maryland. Right now, what our clinical sites are telling us is that for deferring their risks, because if you were to contract illness there, it addresses their workman's comp risks and insurance. So they're telling us that because of their risk management, they want our students to have at least the first dose of their COVID vaccine. So the initial 2 vaccines, the initial 2 shot series. They used to not accept any waivers. Most of our clinical sites are currently accepting a religious waiver or a physician attested medical waiver, but they are not doing it based on a personal preference at this point in time. So the board exam for CMA is medical assistant, and that's not so much for practicing for nursing, but we get our students set up, and most of the board exams are taken through third-party proctoring services such as Pearson VUE. In terms of science classes expiring, yes, they want your anatomy and physiology to be recent. However, if you've already taken them, but they're over 5 years old, you can take the credit biology course pathophysiology as a refresher for your anatomy and physiology. The phlebotomy technician classroom is just under 2,200, and the externship is an additional 335. So you can expect to pay about 2,500 for the phlebotomy tech program. You do so through the college. The very first thing is you apply to the college. They ask for a lot of demographic information. And then what you would do is, again, you can either do a search the website or look through the drop downs for it. What you would be looking for keyword wise is register for classes. And then it will put you on a page where it asks you which classes you want to register for. What it's going to do is it's going to ask you for the CRN or catalog reference number of the individual classes. So for example, I'm just going to pick one out of the catalog here. Sorry, which program did you say you were aiming for?
Pharmacy tech.
Pharmacy tech. All right, let's see if I can find one of those in the catalog. See phlebotomy, I see pharmacy tech. Okay. So one of the ones for summer is scheduled to be Monday and Wednesday evenings on Rockville campus, starting June 5th. The class itself is HHS 105, which is pharmacy tech. But if you look at it, one of the sessions there, the one on Rockville campus, has a CRN 10853. And there's another one down at the Tacoma Park Silver Spring campus that meets on Saturdays, and its CRN is 10852. So when you go to register for classes, it's that 5-digit CRN that says not just what class, but what specific meeting schedule of the class you're registering for. You enter the CRNs, you hit OK, and it takes you to a payment page. And that's registering for classes at MC. It is really very straightforward, especially in non-credit. So CNA is Certified Nursing Assistant. GNA is an add-on credential to CNA, and it stands for Geriatric Nursing Assistant. The difference, the classes are 95% identical. The difference is in that last 5%. The CNA program that we offer focuses on acute care facilities. So there's a little more work with some of the technology that tends to be found in those areas, whereas the CNA GNA program focuses on the long-term care facilities. And so that 5% difference looks really a lot at the psychosocial effects of aging and so on. I will say, if you're looking at working in a long-term care environment, GNA is the preferred certification to come out with rather than just CNA. But you can either get CNA alone or CNA and GNA. So that's the big difference on them. GNA also requires that you take an outside test as compared to just completing the class. And there are some changes on the horizon with Maryland Board of Nursing. So they're going to change up a lot of their terminology on this, but what they are trying to do is make sure that everyone who goes through CNA has at least the elements of GNA in it also. So they're really pushing for students to go with the GNA route. We offer both. CCMA is the Certified Clinical Medical Assistant. CMA is another add-on certificate to CNA. Yes, I know, too many acronyms and they sound too much alike. But CMA, all by itself, is a certified medicine aid. So you get CNA, you get GNA on top of it, and then you can also get CMA, which again, for working in a long-term care environment, assisted living, and so on, is an expansion of scope of practice for assisting the licensed nurses in distributing medication to the students. As we grow with more facilities, we add in more equipment and we add more faculty. And the goal is to be able to expand a lot of our programs so that they are offered in more and more locations to make commuting easy for the students. Right now, most of our health sciences non-credit classes are offered at both Tacoma Park and Rockville campus. And yes, the plan is to expand into the East County campus, the East County Educational Center, excuse me, not technically a campus. Yes, you can, but that is not a credit program, and dual enrollment is meant to focus on credit programs. However, that does not mean that you cannot also take non-credit courses. Job opportunities and externships, tons of them. Most of our students in the CNA classes, the medical assistant classes, the phlebotomy technician classes, they very frequently end up with job offers from their location where they went for their clinical before they've even finished their licensure tests. Granted, they are contingent job offers, but yeah, they generally don't have much trouble finding job placements if they're looking for them. Question about the screening test for math and English for CNA. When we offer our information sessions, we will usually offer some information sessions like this via Zoom, as well as one or two that are in person, usually on Tacoma Park campus in the evening. And we offer the testing during those, immediately following those evening sessions. So it's not complicated, it's grade school level. The classroom portion is just under 2,300. The lab and the externship are just under 1,200. So it is about 4,000 for the medical assistant program. But again, just like CNA is going to have some incidentals for your own health records, health and well-being, and so on, you can expect that with any of the clinical programs, from credit nursing to non-credit medical assistant. And the question of what happens if you miss a day. So all of these programs have contact hour requirements for the students to meet the licensing standards. Generally, if someone misses a day, they have, a real emergency going on or something like that. Our faculty are willing to work with them, come up with something to help them make up those contact hours. In actual practice, we really don't want you to miss unless you absolutely have no choice on that. The final exams for the class are before graduation. Often the licensure test will happen before graduation, but not always. That depends on the scheduling of graduation and when students can get together to take the licensure test. You do not need an immigrant status to graduate from medical assistant. Licensing bodies in the state of Maryland have a directive from the governor's office to not require any particular immigration status for licensing any qualified individual for their field. That being said, the medical fields are lagging behind a bit on that. But generally, if you at least have a social security number, a work permit, essentially, you should be fine on that one. Okay, what about a CPR course? What do we receive after that? You receive an American Heart Association CPR card. We offer American Heart Association BLS CPR, and we take advantage of having nursing labs available. So we will usually also introduce the students in that to how a standard medical bed works to facilitate CPR and resuscitation in general, as compared to just always having the victim laying on the floor. However, all the CPR certifications are good for 2 years. Yes, you do need to renew them. It's something that you do as long as you remain in the medical field. The question of how long are the CPR classes? Healthcare provider CPR, also known as basic life support, we offer it 2 different ways. We offer the traditional class where you come in for 6.5 hours. You do a lot of watch then practice through the morning and immediately after lunch. And then we do some practical scenarios working in the nursing labs with the beds and equipment that are there. And then we wrap up the day with taking the American Heart Association written test for CPR. The other version that we work with, you only spend 3 hours with us instead of 6.5, but you buy what is called the Heart Code online learning module from American Heart Association, and then you come to us for your skills session, which is 3 hours of developing your skills, working through some skills scenarios and so forth. There is no separate written test for that because you go through that process while doing the Heart Code online module. How and where can we renew our CPR card? American Heart Association has instructors all over the place. You can renew with us if you want. You can renew with anyone, but most healthcare providers areas are going to require that CPR be explicitly American Heart Association because a lot of the other providers are a little more flexible on their requirements for completion. We do it. Several other third-party groups do so. You are not constrained to take CPR with us. How would you register for a CPR class? The same way you would register for any class. CPR 007 is the traditional face-to-face healthcare provider CPR, and CPR 098 is the Heart Code skills check for CPR that you would take and then also do the Heart Code module on your own prior to coming in for the skills. If you have an expired CNA license, do you have to retake the class or can you renew it? You would have to take that up with Maryland Board of Nursing. They used to take a very hard line of, no, you must retake the class, but they have made exceptions that I'm aware of. So you would have to address that with Maryland Board of Nursing. The CMA classes for the summer start in early June and end in late August, basically 12 to 13 weeks. If you mean how long an individual class session is, they are 4 hours per session, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yes, if you have a third party who would like to pay your tuition, what that third party can do is send you with a letter from them that is an intent to pay. It should specify what classes and up to what dollar amount they are willing to pay. But if you have someone, like an employer who says, I want to pay to put you through this, we're not proud. We'll take their money too. All right. Have a great day. If you do have follow-up questions, please feel free to email me, morgan.key@montgomerycollege.edu. Key is 2 E's, no Y. That being said, please have a great evening. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.
you.